Good. Welcome everybody on Zoom here today and coming in on Facebook Live. This is Live with Nassim, our monthly Q&A with Nassim for the Resonance Academy. And we welcome everybody back who's coming back for the session today. And we welcome the people on Zoom here who are our contributing members. And if you're on Zoom, you're welcome to put questions in for Nassim in the Q&A, and that's down at the bottom of your screen, where you can post your question. And if you would, just keep it to questions there, and then put your comments in the chat and say hi from wherever you are. Just why don't you go ahead and say hi from into the chat and let us know where you are. And we've got pushing up to 130 people in here already, just climbing rapidly. And welcome everybody on Facebook as well. We really appreciate everybody being here today, and wherever you are, we hope that everything's going okay in these wild times. And I know Resonance Science Foundation is really focused in on some great work and some great research. And Nassim, we're always happy to have this time with you and to get a chance to get a little update and to allow some time for questions to be put to you, which is always a fun journey in these sessions we have. I understand that you're working on a current paper, and I know that's going to be very, very groundbreaking paper from what I've heard about it and some of what you've shared in the past. So I'm quite excited about that. So anyway, welcome Nassim.
Hi, nice to see you. I'm in the midst of it, producing the paper and running everything else at the same time. So it's a little bit chaotic, but we are in the midst of it, and it's really exciting. Actually, some of the calculation we rendered in the last week gave us incredible results, way beyond my expectations, and when you're writing the paper, and because we're doing this section, we do this section of research and we solve these equations, and then we do this section and we solve this equation, and then we do this section and we solve this equation, and it's fairly complex, right? Because they're different subjects, but they are all obviously connected, so it's not until like we had like over 180 pages of calculation and stuff, and it's not until you kind of like put it all together and start flushing it out and put it that like you see the beautiful pattern of unification coming out, and cleaning up, some of the pieces. And as we did, then we discovered new pieces, and it all kind of came together in a beautiful way, so that we have now, with confidence, with confidence, 12 significant numbers of accuracy on all fundamental physics constants and scales, like including masses and radiuses and everything, and which includes the Planck's unit, which was the limitation, because in the Planck's unit is the gravitational constants, and the gravitational constants is only measured till 5-digit accuracy. So there was a limitation in using the Planck units in the theory that was 5-digit accuracy, which is acceptable, for instance, for the mass, for the radius of the proton, because it's not known that much more than that. And the prediction was accurate to the precision that we are able to have on the radius of the proton at this point. But for many other particles and some of the constants that are known till 10 to the minus 10 digit accuracy or to the minus 11 digit accuracy and so on, we were, we were limited by the Planck's unit. And so now we have the Planck units till 10 to the minus 12 or even 10 to the minus 13 digit accuracy. And and we know it's correct because it gives the correct answers for values such as the G factor, which is the magnetic moment of the electron and so on, so that we have, a way to check that our units are correct, because it gives the correct value for all kinds of constants that we're able to measure at very high level of accuracy, like the Reinberg constant and so on. And so, it you can imagine that, like, when you're writing a theory that includes, the background, gives the correct answer for the background temperature of the universe, gives the correct answer for the radius of the universe, the mass of the universe, very large object, and then you take the same theory and you apply it to subatomic particle. The fact that you would get anywhere close to even 5-digit accuracy is remarkable, but now you get almost 13-digit accuracy. And so imagine you're making an experiment over there, unrelated, measuring a fundamental constant, and the numbers are coming out right after the period, after the, and then the decimals are coming out, and your theory matches every decimal in this constant all the way to 13 numbers or 12 numbers after the period, right? And so that's just remarkable. Now, never mind that now you take all the other constants that we know in physics and it continues to match the numbers. Wow. It continues to do that, right? It just continues to just nail everything across all dimensions, all scales, all everything just gets nailed, right? So that it's correct. So you can now apply it to the Planck's unit, and you're gonna get that level of accuracy on the Planck's unit. You're gonna, so there's nowhere to go. Meaning there's no fuzz in the theory. It's all everything just falls into its correct box, and everything just worked together perfect, right? Wow. And it just blows your mind.
Wow, it's got to be so satisfying every time you get a new result. You're like, there it is again. That's got to be so satisfying.
Exactly. That's exactly how it.
So, are you saying that through the verification of the constants and the accuracy, then you applied that to then coming up with a more accurate value for the Planck units?
Unit, yeah, correct.
Okay. I see.
And gravity, for
I see.
Gravitational constants, and for even alpha,
right.
all kinds of.
The Planck units are foundational to deriving many of those constants, and so what you did was kind of apply the theory to get a more accurate value of Planck units, and then take those units and put them back into deriving the values of the constants, and
correct
arrived at that.
Exactly. And voila. And then you look at your theoretical result and at the experimental value.
Yeah. Boom.
And it's a match.
Jeez. The image I got is, because this is across all scales, and it's that fractal harmonic structure of scale and the forces and the masses and the radius, and temperature and everything is just all, the image I got is it's like tuning something up. You know,
Right.
in this case, our mathematics and physics model is getting tuned up. So like,
Yeah, everything falls in place, right?
yeah, wow,
And
that's
it
exciting.
replaces like perturbation theory and other theory that are in the standard model that were like patchwork to try to make it work
Yeah,
into something that is similar than perturbation theory, meaning it's got this kind of like, you know, iteration type of thing, but that is based on more fundamental mechanical, the mechanics of physics. You know, it's not just like a mathematical model that's just thrown in to
hmm,
make the equation work, right?
right, right, right,
So uh, so there's something profound that's emerging from these math,
right, right.
and
Wow.
there's lots more to explore. I mean, we're
Yeah,
really just gonna kind of dump that in the world and let it expand from
yeah,
there. Many people in their fields will be able to
right.
use this
Wow.
formalism to, you know, explore vastly,
Yeah.
and it's gonna go many places that we can't imagine today. But
Wow.
you know,
Mm,
what the
that's
foundation
fantastic.
is remarkably, um, it just it at this, like it cannot be confirmed with um more power, you know, it cannot be confirmed at
Yeah.
deeper level. um
Validation and verification and the accuracy is just like any
right,
question. You know?
yeah, exactly, it's not a debatable thing, meaning
Right. Right.
if it was predicting, you know, as it started, you know, it predicted the radius of proton accurately,
Mhm.
and that the electron and the universe and all these things. So we could see it was there, but so, you know, there was evidence that it was on the right track. This very the core of the theory is this holographic ratio that
Mhm.
I had discovered as I did the holographic math solution and so on. And
Right.
then, you know, and it led us like little breadcrumbs down this road, this path that led to this, you know, realizing this fundamental ratio, like generalizing this fundamental ratio to the whole of all the scales. And as we did that, then it generalized further into outputting all the constants and so on. So,
Yeah. Wow.
and
Fantastic.
yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, there's complexity that I don't really have time to get into, but
Mhm.
there is things that are, you know, we could see the pattern, and we were adding the, you know, the variables in the equation, not necessarily knowing what the variables were telling us about the mechanics, you know. So
Mhm.
we
Mm.
had variables that were showing up. We knew they were right because they were giving all the right answers for all these things, but we didn't know where did this come from. What is this number like? And then um, as we, you know, I asked that we actually kind of like unwrap the equation, because this is what happens in mathematics and in mathematical physics. Is this is a big problem in modern physics, is that we we use mathematical tricks, I mean, algebra and so on, to simplify things, right? So that elements of the equation can be canceled out, and the equation becomes more simple and more easy to work with and more beautiful. And that's true, and it's good. It's a good thing. The problem is that when we do this, we can easily lose the physical meaning of what the numbers are telling you. And that, so then you kind of lose what the math is trying to tell you about the physics. You don't understand. You end up with equations that are simplified, but you don't know what what does these terms mean in terms of the physical meaning of this equation. So we were getting this, and it was giving the right answer, but I asked that we open the equation back to their more complex form, right, with all the terms, and then it started to show up, right? Like, and this is what I was saying. It showed up because, you can't write physics just writing mathematics, not having a fundamental physical model in your head of what it most likely should look like, right? Because otherwise the math can just lead you
go anywhere, anywhere it wants.
right? Just, I mean, a little bit like string theory, right? Like it's a beautiful fundamental concept, right? Space-time is like strings oscillating in space, and but then the math just went into like 11 dimensions and very high level of complexity, and 10 to the 500 different ways of compactifying the strings, and so what the discussion I was having with Olivier and others, is like, okay, but how is this mechanically happening? What is this saying? And so basically I was driving towards, like, I know we can see the recursiveness emerging. We can see the language of the universe in this. Let's decode the language. Let's decode, let's understand what it's saying. And what it's saying is that the universe is like Russian dolls, right? The universe is like embedded structures, right? And recursive embedded structures that that relate to each other, and produce these exact forces that we measure, like the strong force, the weak force, the electromagnetic force, the gravitational force. All these are the effects of this recursive behavior of the scales, and and the relationship between these forces are not separate. This is what the equation, the coefficients in the equation that we're putting in, and is that we discovered is actually the relationship of the forces together coming to, like, and these ratio producing these effects that we call our reality. So I mean, I'm saying a lot in what I just said, like,
I get the implications are huge. It sounds like what I'm hearing is, let me see if this sounds accurate to describe what you were saying, is that in essence there's one force permeating everything, and depending on the scale and ratio relationships, it has different, what we might call behavior or characteristics that we call different forces or different constants, but they're really all just the same thing in this fractal embedded harmonic structure. And then from what you're getting, as you then identify those accurately, is then you see these ratio relationships, and that's almost like you're pulling that to the surface of understanding. And that's where kind of the gold is in all of this, is the ratio aspects are what are actually determining these different characteristics. Is that accurate to what you're saying?
It's not like there's just one force. It's like there's just one thing. Like,
that's what I mean. Same thing. Yeah.
It's one thing, and it's this Planck oscillating structure of space that is fractal in nature, that goes from infinitely small to infinitely big. That makes up universes within universes within universe, like Russian dolls, that makes particles within particles with particles within particles, so on, uh, all the way to the Planck and then the sub-Planck and so on, you know, and it it really, you know, and so and out of these relationship, out of these ratios, right, the forces are created, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it's like the change in density in the structure of space produce these tension, this movement of the information through the field, right? So it's one field, and when the information is moving through the scales, it produces forces that we call electromagnetic, gravitation, strong and weak force. And
Right.
so,
Right.
and yeah, you're correct. Like they're just one thing, because they're the mechanics and the dynamics of the field
At different
right?
scales and different densities and
Yeah,
different
right.
curvatures or whatever you might,
That's right.
however you might look at it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome. It makes
yeah.
so much sense.
Because the universe doesn't do math. The
Yeah,
universe does ratios,
ratios. Yeah,
right? It
which
does.
are harmonic, vibratory, harmonic
That's right.
resonances, not calculations. They're just like, oh, that works. Let's do
Right.
that.
Right. Exactly.
Naturally. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's musical.
Yeah. It's like a dynamic equilibrium. You know,
Yeah,
when you say it seeks equilibrium,
yeah.
but it never reaches it. So it's like a dynamic equilibrium, right? It's constantly reaching for perfect equilibrium and
Which is
never fully reaches, right? There's
right.
always a chaotic boundary,
Right.
right? So that
It's always changing.
yeah, it's always changing, and the
Mhm.
dynamics of it um, produces the effect that we call our reality, or the physical world and the forces. Um, and that is something you can calculate. You know, when you realize, when you find these ratios, these fundamental ratios, the most important being the ratio of information inside the system relative to the information on its surface, because that is what tells you how much the system can communicate of its internal information to the
Mhm.
external world, right? Into the field. So you have the internal information and you have the external information. The relationship between the two produce this ratio, like
Right.
harmonic scales.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so fundamentally simple, really. And
Yes.
so it's pretty easy to get that concept once you kind of get what that all means, and then see how that correlates to just this one unified system, which is what you
Right.
are now writing a paper about.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
Exactly.
that's awesome. Is there some time frame that you're targeting for that paper, that to be shared out into the
Um.
world?
Um.
Too soon to
So
say.
it's hard to say, but you know,
Yeah,
hopefully very
soon.
soon. Yeah. Very very
Coming to
soon.
a universe near us very soon.
Yeah. Exactly. And will be um it will be um it will be extensive. So but
Mhm.
I really, I really encourage people, and hopefully I will make a video or something, or even like a written document for the layman to and going through the equations and explaining, so that
Great.
people understand a little better.
Yeah,
um
that would
it
be great to do.
yeah, it's really important. It's really important that people understand, even the layman, because it says something really profound about ourselves and the world around us, you know.
Sure does.
And that's why i'm always I'm always excited to talk to all the population out there,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that in general, people naturally know this. I
Mm-hmm.
think that in general, people instinctively, we call it instinctively, but we could think of it as like naturally,
Mm-hmm.
naturally know this because they're made of this, right? So,
Right,
so,
exactly.
so it's internal to them, like,
It's already known.
right,
Our biology knows it. All our atoms know it. That which we are knows it. Our minds are like getting it now.
right. And it's remarkable that it hasn't been more prominent in science,
Mm.
because I mean, just from straight logic, from straight, just logic thinking about it. I mean, subatomic particles are inside atoms. Atoms are inside nuclei. Nuclei are inside atoms.
Mm-hmm.
Atoms are inside molecules. Molecules, make up, you know, planets and stars and galaxies that are inside the universe. Like you can see,
Mm-hmm.
like, planets are inside solar system are inside galaxies are inside clusters are inside superclusters are inside universe. So you can see the Russian doll thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
That's awesome.
you can see the fractality,
Yeah.
of it. It just wasn't obvious because we've studied each part of the dolls,
Mm-hmm.
separate,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and because we discovered many things in science in different eras, so
Mm-hmm.
they could be large,
Mm-hmm.
time span between one discovery and another, and the relationship between them wasn't obvious anymore, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
wasn't discovered at the same time.
Or was the
So
thinking there to start correlating and relating them together quite yet?
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. It's just like, and this might offend some people. I'm gonna go for it anyway. It's just like religions, right? Can all be seen as separate. Oh no, Christianity is not like Buddhism. It's not like, you know, um, 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 uh, I'm sorry, I'm having a senior
Like
moment.
what Hinduism or
Yeah, Hinduism, and or they're all
any
separate,
of
or
them. All of them. Yeah.
Islam, Islam
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
different, and so on.
Yeah.
So we can all say, yeah, all these things are separate,
Mm-hmm.
right? For sure that, if you look at the, like, customs, it might look different. All this stuff, it looks different. It does look different. An Islamic person and a Christian person don't go to the same place. They don't dress the same. It's different. So, but if you look at the base of all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
all their religion,
Mm-hmm.
they all talk about love, you know, loving each other,
Mm-hmm.
being benign and supporting each other, and, you know, believing that there's a higher purpose to life, that there's a higher purpose to the universe, like at the base of all this, there's something very similar,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And yeah, and in all of them, that similarity includes that creation, or God, or whatever they're calling it, is inside you,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not separate from you. It's like inside you. It's part of you. It knows everything, and it feels everything, and you are, this, so so basically, because each of these different traditions were developed at different times from different leaders, they got separated in pieces, right? And the commonality of the message got lost for many people.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit the same in science. And the interesting thing is that this new discoveries might bring all of it together. Just the whole thing together.
Science and spirituality, the same fundamental principles, and then a direct correlation to the nature of the foundation of it all. Yeah.
And then emerging technology based on this deeper or unified view.
Yeah. So, which can allow us to harmonize ourselves with nature and the cosmos. So, which we are definitely tasked to do at this time. There is no doubt. It's like, do it or see you later.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go for some questions, Nassim. And I think we're going to maybe go a little shorter today. But
because I got to get back to the paper.
yeah, we want you to get that done. So I know you're in the thick of it today. So we'll do some questions and a little earlier than usual. But let's go into some here. Just taking a first look here. How about this one from Annabella Wood? Talk about getting down to the basics of everything here. Will you talk more about us appearing and disappearing into the field all the time? Is that our vibration? And I'm going to just say, as you ponder that, as I did last time, I'm going to find our friends here in the participants list, and I'll bring you on to the presenter view here. And if you want to open your video and your microphone to say hello, please do so. If you don't want to do that, just leave it off, just leave it muted, no problem. It's your choice. But that way we can say hi to you guys along the way.
Okay, so you're going to bring that person on?
Yes, I'm going to do that right now. Actually, you know what? I need to have Jamie, I guess, give me a co-host status so I can do that.
Jamie, can you do that for Marshall?
I have to remember that ahead of time next time.
Might have to be Penny.
Didn't quite understand you, but hopefully that means yes.
It might have to be Penny, because I don't think I can give you co-host for some reason.
Penny, can you do that?
No, I'm actually just a panelist, so I think Jamie, you're the only host right now.
I see.
All right, well, go see if you can make it work, Jamie, and I'll notice it because it will
start
tell me.
Answering the question.
And you go for it, Nassim, yeah.
So the fluctuation, okay, so we can think about it in many different ways. So, so it's important to, when I was talking about this earlier, I was talking about the vacuum fluctuations in space-time. And these fluctuations are, happening at a very, very rapid rate. In fact, as I was saying last time, hi.
Hello, how are you?
Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. I've met you before.
Yes,
indeed.
No, Annabelle.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Thanks for taking my question. I'm really fascinated by this.
Oh, thank you. Right on. Where are you at?
I'm in Philadelphia.
Oh, wonderful. How's it going over there?
It's going very well, very well. Right after our last trip, when I went to Egypt with the smaller group, about 2 weeks after that, I had a stroke. And and went right into the field, and I came out and my entire life is different, and I'm completely healed from the stroke. It's one of those amazing things, and
Wow.
I'm just all here
gotta
like I've never been here before. So
Wow.
so I want to know where I went, how I came back, and you know, what was that?
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You got a reboot.
I got a reboot. I really did. Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, you know, when I was talking about you're like fluctuating in and out of the field constantly, was what I was meaning is that, you know, the vacuum fluctuation that makes up everything we see, and that I can prove now is make up everything, are constantly exchanging between the field and you, right? Between, you know, the whole and the singularity, and the whole and the singularity, and so there is a and I want to clarify that this is happening, you know, at speeds that are way beyond anything we experience, right? It's happening at the sub-Planckian speeds, which is like 10 to the 40th times faster than the speed of light, you know, at the sub-Planckian scale, or trans-Planckian scale it can be called, or at the Planck scale is happening at the speed of light. So and as well, it's not necessarily coordinated. It's not like you're like that. If I could freeze frame you, you know, in between the two frames, right? So let's just say that, like, so we're updating the universe, and then we're singularizing and updating and singularizing. It's not like the frames of every particles are coordinated, right? You see, they're in relationship to each other, but it's not all. So I wouldn't be able to freeze frame you when you're not there. Do you see what I'm saying?
So some is not there and some is still here, and they're doing it at their own speed and
That's right.
grade and all of that.
They're in phase relationship to each other. You could call it
Okay.
phase space, right? So
Yeah.
you think of it as a propagation of waves, right? It's like propagating through the field, right? So it's in phase space. Some of them are propagating, as some of them propagate through the field, some of them propagate into the singularity, and so, you know, so it's like the torus thing, right? So
Right.
some information coming in, some information coming out. So it's continuously happening, right? But this rate of updating, the universal update, this rate is like, for instance, the information crosses the universe, right? In less, actually, we're recalculating this value. I think it's, last time I said 10 to the minus 17, I was wrong. I was wrong. That was too fast. That was too slow.
Wow.
It's more like 10 to the minus 27 to cross the universe, right? That's seconds, by the way. So, you know, and so basically, you know, there's information flow between you and the rest of the universe that's occurring, and in that sense, you know, you're kind of like the whole, and you're yourself, and you're the whole, and then yourself, like in phase as you evolve. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. And somewhere in here, consciousness is really important, because my experience during the stroke was to join the all for a longer period of time than when I'm like this.
Yeah.
And it was like when we were in the resonator in the King's Chamber with you on our first Egypt trip. I had a very similar feel of joining all that is while I was in that resonator with the crystals. And that's sort of what my stroke felt like to me. It is like,
Wow.
people say, weren't you scared? And it was like, it never occurred to me to be scared.
Oh no, you weren't scared. You said,
I
"Oh
wasn't-
yeah, I've done this before. It was in the pyramids."
Been there, done that. Yeah. Not really. But that
yeah,
feeling of unity was
yeah,
really similar.
right,
So
right.
the consciousness,
But since you come back, do you feel that sense of unity more?
I feel very safe, sense of unity, and much more focused on what I want to get done rather than making sure I have enough money for next week's groceries.
Right.
It's
Right.
a different
Right.
shift in my priorities, much to my wife's chagrin, because I haven't worked since. But
Yes.
I don't know what to do about that. I just can't seem to go there.
Well, that's the thing, is that really what you're describing is that because you've experienced how much you are connected to the whole and how much you are supported by the whole, right? That there's purpose to the whole and that you're part of that purpose, you've lost a certain level of fear, right?
Correct.
You've lost,
yes.
Right. So now you can identify, it's just anxiety and fear that disconnects you from the whole, right?
That is true. Yeah.
So that you can almost sink into that feeling, into your gravitational center, like in your belly, that oh, I am supported. I am on purpose. Everything is okay. Everything is good. I can concentrate on what I want to, do to help the world. I don't have to worry.
And that's where my focus is I'm really wanting to fulfill my goals when I came here. And
Right.
Of course, I have to go within to find out what that would be. But,
right.
I just sit down at my desk and I just write and write and write and write about all kinds of nice, weird stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. Continue writing and exploring. And you see, this is why I'm doing all this, is to actually give people at a very deep level of knowing, scientific knowing, that there is this fundamental field that's holding you. This is not just some random thing that happened, that you're alive and that that you're safe, you're connected, you're fine, whether you're in the physical world or not, right? It's all physical or it's all ethereal, whether you want to see it that way or not. And it's the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's all the same field, and you're supported and you're safe, right? Even if you were to lose the atoms that you call you're still safe. You're still the field. You're still the whole. And, so that you can completely relax in this amazing feeling that you can be completely dedicated and positive in your mission in the world, because you eliminate the fear factor, or at least you reduce the fear factor, and now you can really move. I used to coach. I was a mountain guide, right? Have you ever done climbing?
I've done a lot of backpacking in the Sierras and Yosemite and all of that.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that you can get in places that are pretty scary, right? And when I used to teach climbing, we could be a few thousand feet up on a crag, and we are pretty well on our own, right? It's me and the students, and If something happens, it could be pretty bad and so on. And so, but there is, of course, I had support and all this kind of stuff, contingencies, but I could get into a place where everybody was good. But then if somebody during the climb all of a sudden became terrified, right? Became scared. Like it could be in the middle of a pitch, you know, like because there's a crux there and they couldn't get past the crux, right? And maybe they fell on the rope a few times and they're scared now and they're shaking and they're terrified. Then they would freeze literally on the wall, right? They would be frozen. I couldn't get them down. I couldn't get them up, you know. And while they're doing this, like my whole group would get scared. Like everybody, everybody around that person would start getting scared. And then the whole group would become paralyzed, right?
Wow.
And then even I would notice, like I would start climbing weird, like why I would like climbs that I've done soloing many times. I would like start feeling scared while I would be climbing because my whole group is scared and all this. But basically the whole thing would paralyze. And this is really something that happens and people don't realize is that fear paralyzes you. You're not able to move forward. You're not able to grow. You're not able to explore because you're scared of, you know, of any, like all the things that could happen. And when you feel this fundamental field of connection and this oneness, right? It's so beautiful. It's so fundamental. It feels so like you're held, you know, you're loved, you're, you know, just the way you don't have to be anything else. You don't have to do anything. You're just good, right? When you feel that you're part of this oneness, then you lose that fear. And now you can move forward. Now you can move, you know, where before you're paralyzed, right?
Yeah, the feeling is there is nothing to fear.
Right.
I mean, there is nothing to fear. There's no pain there. There's no dying there.
No.
And there's no separation. There's no loneliness. How could you possibly be lonely there, you know?
Right.
It's
Thank you, Annabelle.
yeah,
Thank you,
Coming
Annabelle,
on
for
today.
sharing that experience with us.
We'll get another question, sneak another question in here when we can, but that was very compelling. And so happy to hear you're tapping into the field. Showed us all that we have that ability to actually let our consciousness and our bodies become unified and back into harmony, even in the face of something like that. So it's really inspiring to hear that.
Yeah, very inspiring. Thank you so much, Annabelle.
thank you guys.
Be well.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's see. Gosh, I was just perusing many questions here. This is just another fundamental one. Is the Planck spherical unit kind of like the Higgs boson particle? And of course, the Higgs boson particle is more widely known and more popularized than the Planck spherical unit at this point. So
Well, it has a larger marketing budget.
Indeed, exactly. Even though it was maybe found.
Yes.
This is from Renee Secula. So I'll bring Renee on here for a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So, well, yes, it is absolutely like the Higgs boson. It just comes from a different, the Higgs boson is the result of a very specific formalism that has to do with the Standard Model, which was partially correct. And the Higgs boson comes out of vacuum fluctuation, quantum vacuum fluctuation, and all this is very similar. It's just the formalism they used, again, just because the way the standard model was written, didn't understand the physicality of the Planck's unit in the world. Oh, hi, Renee is your name. You're muted, Renee. Hi.
There you are.
Hi.
Nice to meet
Thanks
you.
for answering the question. Yeah, nice to meet you. It's great to do the Unified Science course. It's awesome. I'm in module 4 now. I'm really slow. Love it.
Hi.
Hey, family.
They're cuties. Oh, they're so beautiful. How old are they?
Oh, it's my daughter. She's 6 and we've got a doll. We got this really realistic doll now.
It's a little doll.
Okay, so yes, the Higgs boson is it was a first step in the correct direction. It's just that the formalism wasn't quite correct, so it produced this kind of results where you have something that tells you a little bit about the nature of mass, but it's not completely correct. So it missed the mark. It doesn't tell you about the universe. It doesn't unify the universe. And then as well, the formalism is so patchy that it doesn't even give you the correct answer for the mass of the proton, for instance. It only predicts the mass of the proton like 5 to 6%. You know, it's missing all the spin and all this. So, you know, for the spin of the proton and so on. So it really has some big holes in it, but it was the correct direction. Does that help? Does it? So think of it as like the correct direction, just not the right formalism, just not the right math. When you put it in the context of the correct math, it's the right idea that mass comes out of vacuum fluctuation, is just a different equation.
I just find particle physics like really, really awkward, and it's patchy. Like it's hard for me to learn, so I kind of gave up with particle physics.
I see. Yeah, you studied in particle physics for a while, or at what level?
You know what? I got to first year university with physics, so basically, or like more hard calculus, and the way they were teaching quantum physics at like first year university, it didn't work for me. Like my brain is better at language and music, but I've always had such a strong interest in like cosmology and metaphysics. And so now coming back to this information, I have a foundation in math and science, and then also like yoga and stuff and like sacred geometry. So then hearing,
they come together.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool too. But like even with like the Flower of Life and the PSU, it's just like wow, like duh, like it's so cool.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and this fundamental ratio, you know, that's in the holographic mass solution paper in quantum gravity and the holographic mass. That fundamental ratio identified early. When you see the new paper, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. I swear, it's gonna make some physicists cry.
In a good way.
In a good way, yes.
And some not so.
Well, reading about quantum gravity was just like, it felt so good, because it's like, obviously if energy is quantized, why wouldn't gravity be?
Exactly. Exactly. Very good. Very good.
Thank you, Renee. Great. Enjoy your day there with your beautiful family and your new little friend. Happy birthday.
Bye.
Bye. So, just take that one there. Okay, cool. Let's see, Nassim. Our good longtime friend Joan Dickerson has been asking here a couple of times, can you tell us kind of what the general name and topic of this paper is? Is there a name, or is there like a, in one, because when you give a title to a paper, it sort of encapsulates the essence of it. If you have that kind of an encapsulation, I want to bring Joan to say hi too.
Yeah, the name is Scale Invariant Unification of Fields, Force, and Particles in Quantum Vacuum Plasma. So it's a little bit of a technical name, but you can think of it as a scale invariance unification of fields. Means that the mathematics are scale invariant, meaning that they address all scales and unify the fields as a result.
Okay.
So that's, hi, nice to meet you.
Look at Joan with her vector equilibrium just hanging out.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. That's a really nice one.
I know.
Yeah, it comes apart, you know.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, super.
Wow, I've never seen that one. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I've
very cool.
not seen that one neither. It's with magnets.
Yes, yes.
Oh, super.
So-
Where are you, Jones?
I'm in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Right
Yeah.
on.
Right.
It's
That's
so
great.
good to have you on.
And I was interested in what you were saying about you were going to try to make it to conceptualize it. And that's why I got one of these that I keep fooling with, because I figure if I can understand this,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll be solid.
You'll be solid and not solid at the same time.
Right, and not solid, yes. Yeah, and so I was interested in, trying to figure out, okay, how are you going to make what you told us about the paper understandable to me in a comprehensive way?
Mhm.
And I started thinking about, well, music. If I would compare it to music, and where would Symphony Pathétique fit in compared to Beethoven's Fifth? Are they different theories in that whole, or, if I would break down Symphony Pathétique to individual notes, which then become chords, which I have no idea of the notes, I have no idea of the chords, but I respond emotionally to the piece. When you describe it, is that what's going to happen? Is that I'll be able to respond emotionally to your paper, or the abstraction of your paper, or the non-abstraction of your paper? Or are you going to make it so that I can understand little pieces?
Hopefully it will sound like Beethoven to you. I'll try to make it as harmonic as possible as I describe it. Hopefully but people recognize it. I mean, This is why I just said that some scientists will cry. I mean, because they will recognize it.
Yeah.
It definitely made me cry. And I think that people are gonna get the gut feeling as I describe it of what it means, and as I show them as well through the equation, because when you see the equation, or even the numerical values of the equation, not so much the equation, but what the equation outputs, right? Then people, I feel, are gonna recognize it, right, at a really deep level, and it's going to touch them a place that they don't necessarily even know exists in them, right?
Yeah.
Which,
right. Okay.
At the molecular level, at the atomic level, like the music of the sphere is gonna, is gonna become loud in them. They're gonna hear it. Yeah, this is what I'm hoping for.
All right, because And what I've decided to do is, all those equations, I was a mathematician, so all those equations I simplified. Maybe I need to go back and expand them
Right.
so that I can see
The pieces.
the
Luckily,
flowers
it sounds
and
like
things.
luckily it sounds like that work's been done for you already, Joan. So
That's,
Nassim and
that's
Olivier have
great.
actually done the hard work, but
Well,
you would
what
probably gain a lot.
what field of mathematics were you in?
Oh, well, I had to calculate the closed volume explosions of the propagation of things. I just used the math.
I see.
That's all at a research institute.
Mhm.
They had a physics problem, and I had to
Yeah,
solve.
solve the
Right.
math. Yeah,
Yes, and come up with real numbers though,
right. Numerical values.
which I was not equipped for. They should have gotten an engineer. I was just used to using equations.
Right,
Mhm.
right. I understand. I
John.
understand. So you were more on the theoretical mathematic part, and they were asking you to do applied mathematics. I see. Yeah. Wow.
Hey,
Wow.
Joan,
I
Joan,
Are you
did-
still there? Are you still working there?
Oh
Are you-
no, I left that long ago. No.
Oh,
she's in the
No, I
unified
was
physics now.
raised a mathematician, but I was not meant to be a mathematician.
well, I think you're gonna love this paper that's coming out. You're gonna you'll be able to dig your teeth in, and like you said, go back to your equation and open them up and look at the pieces and look at what they're trying to tell you, and how you must discover amazing things and be able to contribute to amazing things. Because like I said, when we simplify the equations,
Yeah.
often we lose the physical meaning.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can see that now.
Right. Yes.
Joan, have
Yes.
you had a chance to read my book Cosmometry, where I talk about the vector equilibrium in music?
No.
Oh well,
Okay,
given
I
what
will
you
do
just
that
said,
before the next thing.
All right.
Because
sounds
I go all the way into how the system of music is directly correlated to the vector equilibrium, which is
Oh.
correlated to unified physics, and it's all kind of laid out there for you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy.
It's perfect. Yeah. And I'm so proud of you that you went out and built a vector equilibrium so you could see it and feel it. And
It's great.
it's true. It's so
It
important.
helps. It is.
It's so important to actually like physically make it, not even in a computer, but when you actually make it, you find all kinds of things and you go, oh my God, isn't that neat how this fits in this and how it works? It just
And look, there are triangles and there are squares and
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You get
Yeah.
all kinds of information you didn't get just from a picture.
Well, good to see you, Joan.
okay.
Please. Thanks for
So
being here and sharing.
great to meet you, Joan. Stay in
All right.
touch.
Very good. Bye-bye. Let's see. We're a little bit after the hour. Nassim, should we do one more?
little
One or
more.
two more? Okay,
Yeah.
here. Let's see. Where do we go? Oh, here's one from Christiana El Tryon again, who is asking, how would you explain levitation from a scientific perspective related to the Planck field and gravity?
How you explain levitation?
Yeah, from the scientific perspective related to the Planck field and gravity. I think you actually
Okay.
maybe talked about this last time. I seem to recall now that I asked this question, but why don't you talk about that again? I'll bring on Christiana.
Yeah, I might need to have a little bit more of a description what she means or he means by
Well, you know Christiana. You'll recognize.
oh, it's Christiana. I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she probably means sadhu levitations.
Ah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
How come she didn't make it here? Let's see. Here she comes.
There we go. Hi, Christiana. It's good to see you.
Takes longer to get to Romania.
Yes. I don't know if she's in Romania. She travels so much. I can't follow her anymore. I don't even know where she
might even be on a different planet. We don't.
Yes, it could be. Basically, so we can write clearly this information in a set.
Hello.
Back.
She just came in.
I came. I came in strong. Sorry. Nice to see you all.
Hi.
You too, Christiana.
It's good to see you. How you been?
Oh, I'm. It's the first time I'm 4 months at home to help you locate me. It's so real. I'm actually in Romania now. I'm at the Romanian Sphinx here. 4 months at home, my body is like very surprised. Finally get to go deeper into all the stuff that was, left behind. It's great to be here.
You're one of the only ones that I knew that was still traveling during, this whole quarantine thing.
I am from a different planet, yes. Michael nailed it.
But it's good to be at home for a while. Because I know you were in India just when I was talking to you last.
Yes.
And this is what you mean about levitation, right?
Yes, and actually it's thanks to you that I came back home, so I need to just bow and thank you. I would probably be in the Himalayas now, trying to stay human if it wasn't for your advice.
Yeah, you took my advice and went home. I'm glad you did.
I did. Many have called me, but it was your opinion that pondered the most, I must admit.
Well, I'm glad you're home and you're safe. And it's a good question.
Yes.
Some people will debate if levitation really happens in all these sadhus, hearsay things. And that's understandable. I mean, if people have not experienced it directly or seen it directly. I remember there was some physicist in one of the conference where we were there together that had started to measure people when they sleep.
Yes, Ivo, he's probably watching.
Yes, he's doing really good work and doing that acquisition. I can't remember what university he was at.
He was in Californian University. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would love to talk to him again about his study and see what he's getting. But I think that there was some positive results showing that people did lose some anomalous, there was some anomalous effect. So when we're talking about levitation, we're not necessarily talking about like literally floating in the air. If you were losing anonymously, I'm sorry, what's the word?
Yes, a very small amount of weight, during the sleep.
If it's anomalous, meaning if it's not the result of just water evaporation while you're sleeping, or but it's actually like you can't account for it, which is it seemed like he was getting some of these results. Other scientists in the past seem to have found the same result, even if it was just 1 gram. If you do E equals mc squared on 1 gram, the energy level that you would need for that to just happen is remarkable. So,
yeah.
So, and because I had the experience myself, I was caught levitating by a friend, but you know, I didn't do it on purpose. I was just sleeping and I just wasn't on the ground. But I was, you know, so basically, and I think that that happens for so many people in their life. They may not know, right? They might be, while they're sleeping, they're maybe losing a few grams, you know, of weight, you know, not from water evaporation or any other mechanism. And I think, and that's
Yes.
why I was really interested in this physicist that was doing this study, because he was measuring people at very, very precise scales while they were sleeping and getting some really interesting results.
Yes.
And so,
His
and
name,
pardon me?
yeah, his name is Ivan Orly,
Yes.
and his on WhatsApp group.
Oh, okay. And basically, if you you know, after the experience I had, I wanted to do that study, and I never thought that somebody else would do it, you know, because it's a weird story to, you know, weigh people while they're sleeping, and so but I was so glad he did it. And so I'm saying that, like, as we're finding from this equation, gravity is a function of information density in a region of space, right? Now, that might sound like a standard definition, because in standard definition of Einstein field equation, gravity is the result of a density of energy or mass in a region of space. But I'm using the word information because it's an important distinction. That is that mass, you know, it's nice in the Einstein's equation that it says that mass curves space-time to produce gravity, but mass is unexplained. What is mass? We know that it's equivalent to energy, but what is energy? And this is what these equations are saying, is that mass and energy are actually information flow in the field. So you can, so now that distinction gives you a different view. And you go, oh, okay. So that means if I could increase the information flow in a region of space, I could modify gravity. I could modify the curvature of space, right? And so it might be a big leap for people, but I'm gonna make it anyway, that you are an information flow, you know, node in the field. And if your information flow, you know, becomes high enough, strong enough, you know, or in certain state, it might be higher even if you're unconscious, meaning if you're sleeping or so on, that, you know, there will be a gravitational effect as a result. And, you know, the fact that this starting to be measured is very exciting.
Yes, and it's my question when I felt to ask it was not only about people. I mean, yes, people in a higher state of coherence, when, let's say, they tune more into the vacuum field, they are able to modify their density and therefore their weight or their relation to gravity, as we call it, and they are able to lift off the ground. But we can do the same with objects, and this has been proven. I mean, there's, you know, many people out there that they can literally move objects. And how do they do that? What they change to make them levitate and move into another direction. So let's think, for instance, at the pyramid blocks. Yes, they weren't carried around with am I going into too far out? It's like they wouldn't carry them with vine ropes, right? So something was happening there that would change the the day of those blocks, right?
Yeah. We're, I have some big feedback echo. I don't know how to get rid of it.
And you get an echo from your line.
Yeah.
Try muting, Christiana. I think that might be necessary now.
Okay. I'm gonna say this again. It was I was talking about people moving objects, you know, and making levitate. Okay.
Yeah, I just have an echo. So if you can, I just have an echo. So if you can, when I talk, it doesn't make an echo. When I talk, it doesn't make an echo.
Try muting. I'm going to try muting your
I will
line.
change.
I'm going to mute you because it's feedback. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. So basically, you know, the pyramid issue is another field, and it's related, of course. Like how the pyramids were built is another issue. I personally, from all the math and physics I've done, and most physicists would most likely agree with me, if you do the math for, some of the monuments like the pyramid at Giza or even the Saqqara pyramid or other pyramids, it's not really feasible that they were built with vine ropes and people pulling on blocks, some of them in excess of 200 tons. I mean, there's pieces in Egypt that are within 1,000-ton range. This doesn't get moved around on logs and using vine ropes and so on. So how is this done? Now, the idea that it was done with just people's concentrating and consciousness and moving the blocks that way, I have doubts about that. I don't think it would be very practical neither. I think technology was used, very advanced technology that amplifies the information flow in regions of space that produce curvature in space-time. I mean, all these ancient civilization talks about advanced beings that were there that did this. They don't claim they did this, and they claim that these advanced beings could float in the air in these boats that they described, these ships that they described that could float in the air and all this. So of course, if there was a civilization there that had gravitational control, and that civilization might have been from another part of our universe or our galaxy or whatever, or it might have been an earlier civilization that was on our planet long ago that, ascended, went somewhere else, and there was changes on our planet and whatever, case may be, that did this. But, I think that there is, the combination of technology and awareness. And this is where I clash with the spiritual community. The spiritual community has a tendency to think that it's all consciousness and it's all internal. The scientific community has a tendency to think it's all technology and it's all external. And the truth is most likely both, right? The truth is somewhere in the middle, and is the middle path that the Buddha talked about, which is like, yes, you can see the same dynamics in a human being, and you can make technology that reproduce these dynamics external to you to get tremendous effects, and tremendous power to move very large objects and so on. This is always both. And so, you know, as far as objects goes, I think it may be possible that somebody can move an object at a distance. I had a few of these experiences myself, but it's not practical. And it's not something that you can, like a civilization that's advanced has built technology that reproduce those effects at much larger scales so that they can, you know, travel in the solar system, travel in the universe, and so on at very, very large scales with very advanced technologies, you know, that sure are part of consciousness, because guess what? It's consciousness that built the technology, right? So, you know, and sure, this level of technology may become more connected to consciousness, meaning that it might be driven by conscious intent in some advanced cases. So, you know, but the tendency for the spiritual community is to lose contact with the technology, or think that you can get rid of all of the technology, and you cannot. Like the technology is just a representation of the outside world, and the consciousness is a representation of your inside world, and the two are related. They're always together.
Yes, my view is that our technology replicates the level of our consciousness. I mean, we would get to devices that can, you know, spin at such high vibration to levitate ourselves off the planet, when our consciousness will be able to frequency match that, you know, not to be destructive, sorry, or not to use it in an overpowering way. So
Right.
I believe these things are already created. We just have to get there in our consciousness to have them. And you're very right that we have to, you know, utilize technology as well as consciousness in order to evolve and be well as a civilization.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, there's a, can you mute yourself so I don't echo? Thank you. So so yes, that's true what you said. I just want to add that, like, there's a certain level of rigor, right? There's a certain level of rigor that's required. You know, it's not instantaneous, meaning you can have consciousness that match very high level of awareness in the world, right? Like, for instance, sadhus in India or anywhere in the world, or, you know, shamans and so on. You can have very high level of awareness, and it takes a very, you know, rigorous mind to apply this higher knowledge to, like, understand the details of the physical world enough to be able to make technology that match that higher awareness. That's not a given, right? The tendency for higher level of awareness may be to unground, right? And then lose contact with the physical world, lose contact with the rigor that's required to, like, apply this knowledge to, like, transform their world at the technological level. It's easier, you know, to just go, it's easier to just go, you know, have the beautiful thoughts, you know, have beautiful satsang, talk about it, you know, talk about all this stuff, but not actually have the rigor to try to understand the math, to understand the physics, to understand the mechanics in its detail, so that you can turn around and go and engineer a spaceship, right? That rigor has not been there, right? And this is the problem. It's the separation between the spirit and the spirituality and the physical world.
I would say that
Totally agree with you. And luckily we have you on this planet to keep some of us on track.
Thank you.
absolutely.
We don't fly off too much.
Thanks, Christiana.
Thank you,
That's a
Christina.
very important role that you're having.
Thank you. I appreciate.
Take good
Thank you
care.
for answers.
Great to see you.
Much love to all. I love you. See you soon.
But you know, Marshall, there's me and others. There's so many of us. You know, there's so many of us now.
Yes.
That are,
Well, that's
you
it.
know,
I was
yeah,
going to say too that you know, this knowledge has been around for a long time and it hasn't been allowed to be pursued in academic and lots and therefore engineering and scientific pursuit the way it could have been.
right.
And for whatever reason, that was built into the cosmic plan. That's what we're dealing with, and here we are. We're at the threshold of really bringing it into shared consciousness. And once
Exactly.
that, as we say in the course, once that shifts the worldview, like everybody goes, oh, you know, that's how it works. We get it now. And that gives us so many opportunities to engineer the kinds of technologies you're talking about and you're working on to
Right.
make that shift that we have to make.
And for our institution to support that
Exactly.
instead of
Yeah.
discouraging that.
And that is exactly what's needed right now in this world, because without it, it's, you know, we can see how we're already at this sort of catastrophic edge of the impacts of not doing that. It's
Right.
like, okay, what options do we have now? Okay, let's do that. Because
Yeah, let's do that. Yes,
that's
exactly.
really what is actually going to make it possible on so many levels. So
Yeah. And the
Well,
first step really, and this is becoming apparent to everybody as a result of what's happening in the world these days, the first step is to unify humanity, you know, like, I mean, really, you know, to realize for each individual, you know, even in their consciousness, the way they think about each other, you know, we have separation thoughts so embedded in us, you know. So
Yeah.
like, for instance, you know, because of everything that's in the media right now, a lot of people are talking about, you know, colored people, you know, like, you know, people with African descent, and, you know, basically just have a little different pigmentation on their skin, really, like, you know.
which we're all different.
Right.
Ultimately.
Guess
Yeah.
what? We all have different pigmentation in our skin. You know, I'm actually browner than you.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, I still get, you know, sunburn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, if I expose myself to the sun too long. And so basically, you know, but so there's a lot of that in the media, but like, think about it. It's like, how do you feel about Chinese people? How do you feel about Japanese people? How do you feel about, you know, Iranian people? How do you feel about, you know, Iraqi people? How do you feel about, you know, like this opportunity to like actually like look in your consciousness? Is like, is there like skeleton in the closet in there? Because they most likely is, you know. I consider myself a fairly aware being, right? And I'm finding skeletons, right? And it's like, wow, what is that doing there? How did I get this, right?
Yeah.
Because whether we like it or not, we're influenced by all the things we've been taught, the media, the society we've grown in, and all this stuff. Like, so like, we can make the change if we change it in our consciousness ourselves, right?
It all starts.
You open all the closet doors. This is the good time.
Yeah.
Open all the closets. Yeah, it's like spring cleaning, you know, when you open everything and you open the doors and it's been winter for like, in Canada for like 8 months, like, and
Yeah.
and you open all the doors and it's the first sunny days, and you open all the closet and you like pull out all the stuff. Let's pull out all the stuff and like clean up.
Yeah. Seems to be really happening now. And I think this whole experience we're having around the entire world of having to go into our homes and kind of, what do you have? What's in this closet? What's in this closet? You're not going outside looking around as much. So it seems to be happening in some profound ways. And it definitely is necessary for that to happen at this time.
Right.
So I think we're going to wrap up. But before we do, Nassim, I know you're participating in what's called the Harmonic Convergence 2020 that our good friend Mark Sims is sponsoring and putting together and organizing. And he's been a great ally of us and the Resonant Science Foundation and you and your work. And I know you're participating in that, doing a couple of talks, as is Andrea Malone from Art Crystal. Can you just speak to that for a moment before we wrap up and let people know about it?
I'm excited to participate. I mean, Mark is an amazing person. And as well, Jose Guilles was a good friend of mine. And we used to hang out in the 90s, we were colleagues, we spent time together and discussing, the time, synchronicity of time and so on. And, the harmonic conversion that he had done in 1987, which was really a very important moment, I feel, because first of all, in 87, when it happened, I had some very important transformation in my life that helped me put me on this path that I am on since then. I wrote some of the first equations during the time of the harmonic conversion in 87 when he was doing it. That like unknowing to me, this was happening. I didn't know about it at the time. I mean, I was a scuba diver instructor, ski instructor, mountaineer, I was not involved in the harmonic conversions. And, but there was this influx, I feel, because many years after, throughout the years, as I went on, I met so many people that told me, oh yeah, this amazing awakening in 87 that led me on to this path that I'm on. So many people. So I felt like it really had a very global impact. Right. And they actually made an amazing little movie about it. Mark Sims and the crew. I'm not sure when they're gonna release it, but I'm really excited about it. And yeah, I look forward to be able to like bring, promote that and get it out. But I was, I was wondering, like, I have so many things on my plate. I didn't have time to like try to figure it out. But I was wondering when would be the next pulse of the harmonic conversions, like the next time that we would do this. And certainly there's been a lot of global meditation since then and all this. And we are now being able to measure the impact they have because we have, all these random generators, computer on the world that seem to produce non-random effects when we have global meditations and so on. But I feel like this is an opportunity to really like kind of do the next pulse from 87 to 2020 and like help launch anyway, and unify humanity into this next path of our evolution, which in the case of Mark Sims, includes, and others, many others around the world, includes, our relationship to the galactic community, because we now know, unlike in 87, we now know that there's billions of planets that are inhabitable in our galaxy alone, and that there's most likely a lot of life out there. And whether they can come here or not, I would say there's lots of evidence that they have. But even if you don't want to believe that, that's fine. You know, the fact that they're out there, and the fact that we're all part of the same field, we can unify with our galactic community, our galactic field, and, you know, really bring our civilization to the next level. So I'm excited to participate in this event, and I hope that everybody out there helps pass on the word, and get the world, you know, involved. We need as many people as we can.
Great, and that's coming up starting this Sunday, July 5th. It's a 10-day live broadcast happening around the whole world, and you can go to theharmonicconvergence2020.org, which I put the link in, probably Jamie did too earlier, and check it out. And we will be not only harmonizing and converging ourselves on this planet, but doing so in relationship to that which is beyond us as well, which is a good thing to be doing. So
right.
And we really appreciate what
they might have a little bit more experience about what we're going.
Yeah, so check it out, and I think we'll leave it at that for today, Nassim.
Yes.
It's been a great
Thank
session.
you so much.
Back to your paper. We want to get that done.
Yes. It's coming out soon. It's coming out soon. I'm so excited.
Great.
I love you guys. I love you all. And thank you for all the research and the support crew behind making these events possible for everyone.
Definitely. Yeah.
Please, everybody, if you can let people know about the course. I think we have like some 30,000 people taking the course right now.
Awesome.
You know, and, if we can, you know, and if you can become a member and, you know, support us that way, it makes a huge difference. And lots of love to everybody. And until next time, may the vacuum be with you.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for being here today on Zoom, on Facebook. And we'll see you next month, the first Wednesday of the month with Nassim.
Same
see you
time,
then.
same time.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.